Hi, I'm Clayton. Let's talk about some common errors in C++ and the human mind. On the screen here, you see a couple of short code snippets. What I'd like you to do is pause the video, take a couple of minutes, and work out what you think this code is going to do. And when you've made your prediction, then start the video again, and we'll go on with the conversation. All right, in the first section of code here, anybody would think that we're comparing x to 4. And if x is greater than 4, we want to do that printout. And if it isn't, we don't want to do that printout. And we know in this case that x is 3, and so we shouldn't expect to see the printout. But we do get the printout. What's going on? Well, as the highlight and the explanation of the box indicates, there's a little tiny but crucial mistake here. There's a semicolon sitting there after the if. And invisible, just before the semicolon, is a blank, empty, null statement, a statement that does nothing at all. But that is the statement that the if thinks it's trying to control. So it does the test, it correctly concludes that x isn't bigger than 4, and so it says, okay, I'm going to skip the next statement. But the statement it skips is that null statement. Having done that, the if has done its work, the program proceeds, and it does the printout. The second example hinges on another little tiny detail. If you want to compare x with 4, you have to use 2 equal signs and not 1. If you use 1 equal sign, you're doing something completely different. We can't get into the details here. But what will happen if you run this code is it will, again, give that completely silly printout. Well, what are the lessons from this? One lesson is you can't read code the way you read anything else. As a human being, you read for meaning. You can't help it. You're going for the big picture. That's how the human mind works. Unfortunately, computers can't do that. They're completely stuck on the details. So if you want to see the code the way the computer is going to see it, you have to get stuck on the details too. So you might be thinking, so why do people design languages so we have to worry about stuff like 2 equal signs versus 1? Are these people crazy? The answer is no, but to understand why not, you need to know a little bit of history. You're in a generation where computing is incredibly cheap. In my generation, the opposite was true, especially at the beginning. The first computer I ever worked on in 1961 was way, way, way less powerful than anything you could conceivably buy in any form today. You could get a 50-cent microcontroller chip that would be way more powerful than that 1961 computer. And yet, the 1961 computer cost the equivalent of several $100,000, and people were happy to pay the price. That's how expensive and precious computing used to be. So imagine 2 people talking about a language design, and one of them says, you know, I'm a little worried here. I think people may get confused by these double equals or by these empty statements. And their colleague says, come on, get serious here. People are flexible and they're cheap. They'll figure it out. It's not our job to worry about that side of things. Our job is making sure this is as simple and easy as possible for the computer. These days, people understand that you got to worry about what's easy to understand and what isn't. If you work for Amazon, you're very well aware that if people can't understand how to buy things on your website, it's not going to be good. But we've been slow to realize that programmers are people too, and it doesn't help anybody when programmers get hung up on minor little points like this because they're human beings. Perhaps some of you will rise to this challenge and create new computational tools that are better matched to the strengths and weaknesses of the human mind. In the meantime, you will make these small errors. It's going to happen to you. How do I know? I've been programming for almost 60 years, and I still make these mistakes. Not very often, but I do. Why? Because I'm a human being. And you're human beings too, so you will make these mistakes. It's frustrating, but you will get through it. And above all, don't make the mistake of thinking, ooh, I'm making these mistakes. I must not be cut out to be a programmer. You're just showing that you're a human being like everybody else. There's a lot more to be said about the relationship between the human mind and computation. And I'd love to talk with any of you about it. So please look for my office hours online and let's have a conversation. Till then, Thanks very much for your attention.